Recently caught up with frontman of UMI, Tim Rogers, down in Portland, Oregon, at the Mississippi Studios Club, just after their gig. Tim was a little under the weather that night, but still gave me a few minutes of his time backstage, and it was really great to meet an iconic Australian musician. I asked him first of all about his connection with Canada, and a curious article I found online about UMI playing with Nickelback way back in the day. I just wanted to ask you first about your history of the band with Canada, whether you guys have toured up there before, and any connections you might have up there. I know you're playing with Sloan pretty soon.
Yeah, we toured up there more years ago with a couple of folks. We knew that when we passed the border from United States and then getting over the border, that the beer was better, and that the people kind of anyone that we'd meet would understand a sense of humour a little more. So very, very affectionate about Canada. And, obviously haven't been there a lot at all, but the memories remain very deep.
Yeah, I actually saw a review online from many years ago. You actually you played a show with Nickelback in Vancouver, and you blew them off the stage, and it was a funny pairing to play with the Nickelback. I don't know if you remember that, but...
No, I think that phrase "blowing them off the stage" is really inappropriate. I mean, we did what we did, and they did what they did, and it's that you. I think after I've been playing in a band for 24 something years, and it really you don't go on to blowing them off stage, and then obviously we didn't that night. It was just that we had a different sound that appealed to the reviewer. But yeah, in those situations, playing with a band like Nickelback then, I mean, obviously they were playing clubs then, and when they proceed on and become really big acts, it does give you an odd chance at reflection, or think, what happens to folks, and we've been lucky and unlucky enough to be in the company of people that have done extremely well for themselves. And what we've learnt though is that it doesn't necessarily bring you any great joy or happiness or togetherness, and so we kind of just concentrate on what keeps us going, and it keeps us keeps us thin.
Yeah, and doing what you do best. And I'm wondering about your initial connection to the United States as well. And I know your first album you recorded in Minneapolis, and I know you were influenced a little bit by the Replacements and that music scene there. And it must have been quite an amazing experience to initially connect with that world there. Wondering how that first came about, that first album actually recording in America.
Well, I think the connection with America, I mean, my connection with the States was, had a little bit of fan history with that part of the country, but for the rest of the band at the time, they didn't at all. They weren't as slavish as I was about the region. We recorded in Minneapolis because the producer of that record, Lee Ronaldo, who kind of a dear friend of ours, suggested it. For me, it was a really big deal, but to record at Pachyderm, and these other things that happened, was Nirvana just did In Utero at Pachyderm. That was the record before we got in there as well. I think that then, though, that at the time when information wasn't so readily available and automatic, that we were just pretty wide-eyed and happy to be in America. As grumpy and misanthropic as we can often come across, that America for us holds a musical history, a lot of literary history, poetic history, and future as well. I think the best gig I've ever seen in my life was Halloween map room in Memphis, and I was just there by chance, and saw these little kids, little three-piece fucking punk band throwing themselves around with such ridiculous abandon that I promised to myself then, and it was maybe about 2001, I'd never think the same way again about making rock and roll, that, you know, to not be so fucking serious about it. So I felt such joy. You know, I guess you're never too old to keep learning.
And to be inspired, And it reminds me of the Rolling Stones and reading the Keith Richards bio and how they were initially in Britain really being blues purists and really trying to transport that American sound to a different audience. And there's definitely something here in this part of the world that rock and roll purists can hook into and be inspired by.
Well, the thing about I reviewed the Keith book for a big newspaper at home, and the only thing that disappoints me about it is that I love the writing about with him as regards to music, but that it seems to stop at a certain point, and everyone's got their own thing and their own, you know, journey or whatever. But really want something that's going to hit me. There's 10 records I'll go to, but there are other extremities of emotion, and hear really good things every day. I mean, not consistently, but new things, old things, guy on the street. And just when you bring out that mention of Keith, I mean, my only fear is becoming a crotchety old man, you know, because I fear that for my own dad. I want him to die in wonderment and fascinated. And so, you know, I don't actively go out and search for new music or new things, but there's I live in Melbourne, man. There's always amazing stuff out there. Even if you hate it, at least it's inspiring, you know.
Yeah. And there's just so much amazing music around, and people who will support it as well.
Tim Rogers has been quite vocal publicly about his struggles with mental illness as a youth prior to him forming UMI in 1989. During a nationally televised TV interview with commentator Andrew Denton, Tim explained that he had been diagnosed with schizophrenic episodes during his time studying law at the ANU in Canberra. I studied that same degree at the same university in Canberra and struggled greatly myself with periods of depression due to the high workload. I often wondered what it would be like to talk to Tim about this experience. I think it's a great time right now during midterm exams here at the University of British Columbia to talk about this issue and play the response that Tim gave me to my questioning about this period of his life. Tim explains that no matter what you might be going through during the compression of your life, during intense periods of study, it's always worth reaching out to people who've been through a similar experience.
And one of the questions I always wanted to ask you was about your transition from Canberra into Sydney. I actually went to the ANU there and experienced maybe similar things to what you experienced when you were studying there, and I always wanted to ask you about your transition from that life into your true nature in what you're doing now. And
I got very ill when I was studying, became very mentally ill. It was unfortunately a difficult time. I was trying to work, and I was working, put myself to the university and studies, but I became very sick. So
yeah, I relate to that. I went through a similar experience myself in that exact same environment, and so your music actually helped me to make sense of what I was going through. So it's always been great to keep up and see what you guys are doing and be inspired.
Well, I think that it's important for, particularly for adolescent and early 20s mental health, to for any crisis point. Sometimes all it takes is for someone to hear that someone else has been through it. That with a little bit of little bit of
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness. I don't necessarily think it's taking care or too much talking. Just to know that someone else has been through similar experiences, and it's massaging someone through those experiences. When you come through the other end, it's almost like you've got this far more heightened sense of awareness or being, or to have that sense of empathy. It's almost like you feel privileged for having gone through it.
And for yourself, music was a crucial part of breaking through into a stronger, healthier way of being. And
no, music wasn't. Music. Literature was more. I'm not a big reader, but literature is more. Music takes me off into places where drinking more and more and dance. It's always been the more devilish aspects of the dancing being the great release and the great. That's the good. No, it's been a weird one. I've got a strange relationship with music, which I don't quite understand. Writing and reading and more esoteric pursuits. But music, I don't know. I just always think about making out and and then real romance and what you kind of think that you're going to get to a stable point, because when you kind of pursue the things that you love, and they're always going to drive you nuts. So I think to follow any kind of passion, whether it's romance or music or whatever.
Yeah, that's really interesting to learn. I hadn't realised that literature was a big part of your life as well, and still to this day, and informs lyric writing. Or
it's more the pursuit of it. I don't read a lot, or I try to, because out of love, it's like if the person I love is a writer and a reader, and I want to be more like her, so it makes me want to be a better person. And so it's,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for the insights, and I'm curious about the next steps from here, Tim, with the band. Are you back in Australia recording pretty soon, or having a break?
Oh, we can't take a break. No, we're back touring. And
Cold Chisel, that's right. I saw that on the website.
Yeah, it'll be alright. And now we've got so much going on individually. Theatre shows, writing stuff.
The Temperance Union, is that getting back together at all? Or?
Yeah, I start a record the day I get home. Actually, yeah.
Oh, great. Well, definitely look forward to that.